So there's this disconnect between science and where medicine is practiced.
And I knew that I needed to go see a really alternative doctor or somebody who's into hormones, understand entrepreneurs, understand stress and all of that. And I found this great medicine, regenerative medicine practice back in Boulder, Colorado. This particular episode is super important because as an entrepreneur, a woman, I will tell you that has been so many times where I was exhausted. I forget things. I'm tired. I can get rid of the fuzz. I found this great medicine, regenerative medicine practice back in Boulder, Colorado. And so I'm so excited, Nicole, because they have been in my life now for 3 years, in my husband's life, and literally just by practicing medicine with them, it has literally given me life. It took the fuzz out. It helped me sleep well. I'm pretty balanced with my hormones. I keep my labs. And as an entrepreneur, I need to minimize stress, not elevate the stress. So excited for today's episode.
I know. I'm super excited. The conversation was so real, so impactful. And it talked about the challenges of choosing things that are, sometimes unknown and how much freedom can be on the other side of it. We just get really stuck in the day-to-day minutia, and we have a difficult time making the choice, even if it's for the betterment of our health and the betterment of our lives. And so today we're talking to Dr. Khoshal and Colleen Grady, and they both just had so much value to bring from the Rocky Mountain Regenerative Medicine in Boulder, Colorado. Colleen is registered nurse, Master of Science in Nursing, family nurse practitioner. She began in family and emergency medicine before she went into RMRM. She specializes in women's health, which was so exciting to be able to talk to her about that. Perimenopause, menopause, hormone therapy, autoimmune disorders, you name it. And Dr. Khoshal, of course, co-founder of Rocky Mountain Regenerative Medicine. He also started in emergency medicine, graduated from Dartmouth, did residency training at Yale, and figured out that he couldn't do the 100-hour weeks that he was putting in, and he didn't feel like he was connecting with his patients. And now at their company together, they're giving a real experience where you have the opportunity to get to know your body in the now and see what you can do to impact your body in the future. So very education forward, not like anything that you would experience in a normal doctor's office. And it's super important to hear what your options are out there and what's available to you out there.
Yeah, and not to mention when it comes to taking the leap of leaving a very well-paid job, an ER, and also for Colleen, and they shared 3 babies. They decided to go all in and open a practice that meant something to them. They wanted to be able to give great medicine and listen to the patient and be a key, I would say, a key factor in somebody's health and not just another number. So what does it take to run a family-owned business or co-founding business with their partner, have 3 children, work 100 hours a week, and transition to building that practice? So I can't wait for our listener to listen to everything in this episode.
A ton of nuggets here for you guys. We can't wait.
We have such a great program for you guys today, and I can't wait to just discuss everything about how to keep youthful, how to keep beautiful. But really, as an entrepreneur, I'm at awe about what you, Dr. Khoshal and Colleen, decided to do. So before we we jumped into your greatest success and how it all started, I'd love to learn first what made you decide to you know, just, I don't know, it's like quitting cigarettes overnight instead of a long time.
Well, believe it or not, it was harder than quitting cigarettes. I've never smoked before, so I don't know what that's like. But it was definitely a hard transition. So I went to medical school just like most doctors. And I was on the East Coast at Dartmouth. Then I went to Yale for emergency medicine training, which lasted about 4 years. And I certainly had a certain vision for how I wanted to practice medicine. And I had that vision since childhood. It certainly sort of, took its own direction during undergrad and medical school, and those things evolved. But I always had this idea of what the ideal way to practice medicine would be. And I thought in that idyllic world, I would get to sit down with patients for 90 minutes at a time, if not longer, until all of their questions were, addressed. I would have this longitudinal, long-term relationship with these patients and contribute in a way that was positive, that I felt good about, to the wellness of my community. That was certainly a part of that vision. But once I graduated residency and I got a job as an attending, working here in Denver, I slowly discovered that I had deviated quite a ways from what that ideal world looked like. And so when I was practicing in emergency medicine, I was seeing patients, at least every 15 minutes. And the faster you move, the more you're sort of rewarded. And it really compromised, what I valued in being a doctor. And I think that is something that rubbed off on the patient. I mean, imagine yourself, and maybe you have been a patient going to the ER, and the doctor stops in maybe for 5 minutes, and the rest of the time he or she is on a computer, and the nurses are also busy. And it's a really vulnerable time for the patient, and they want to get some answers as to what might be ailing them. And by the time they walk out of there, they would think, geez, I didn't even see the doctor, when in fact you did, but it wasn't a real meaningful, constructive sort of dialogue that occurred between the patient and the doctor. And so what came out of that is just this feeling of being unfulfilled. And the patient certainly felt underappreciated. And it wasn't just a good relationship. And I don't know if patients realize this or not. As doctors, I didn't at the time, but it really kind of took a toll on me. And I got to a point where I would look at my colleagues who had been doing this for 40, 50 years with a little bit of awe, a little bit of envy. Like, how are they doing it? How are they not getting burned out? And here I am doing this for 2, 3, 4 years, and I'm already getting burned out. And they would tell me, just kind of grind your teeth and put up with it. And I didn't want to put up with it. I didn't see myself being able to just fake it till you make it, so to speak, for decades. And I had to step off that hamster wheel. And whereas, I'll talk about my practice now, but other doctors have felt similar, and they've made that transition. And in some respects, it's much easier if you have a patient base that you can migrate along with you. So if you're an OBGYN or if you're a primary doctor, those patients really have valued that relationship with the doctor, and it's much easier to take those patients with you, so you're not starting from scratch. As an ER doctor, you don't have that patient base to take with you, so you're really it is truly a leap of faith. And that's why I said it's probably harder than quitting smoking, to kind of realize that this is not what you want to be doing for decades on end. You're going to lead an unfulfilled life, and after all, we get one life to live. So let's make it really, really meaningful and live with purpose. And if we're going to take the leap, let's do it. And so Colleen and I made that transition. And since then, we've been standing here for about 8 years now, going on 8 years, I think.
Wow.
And it's a much better life. And I've kind of checked all the boxes of how I envision my career going. And it's a much more fulfilling career.
This episode is sponsored by Salon Cadence, the only global advisory network helping salon and spa and med spa CEOs scale to 7 and 8 figures without a burnout. This is not a do-it-yourself program. This is do it with you and for you. From profit-first system to team-run leadership. First, we fix the numbers, then we create the wealth, then we focus on CEO mindset, and we build the process with your team to give you the ultimate freedom to become the true CEO and visionary you are. We have helped thousands grow widely successful for freedom-driven companies in beauty, wellness, and regenerative medicine. If you're ready to grow, scale, and live a wealthy life, visit saloncadence.com. Now, one of the most important things that you can invest in and not do it yourself, I highly recommend mysalonbooks.com. Salon owners that are tired of never knowing if you're actually profitable or where your money is going, on what your money is doing for you or against you. The team at My Salon Books takes the stress off your plate. They are specialized in salon booking, providing real-time insight and financial clarity so you can focus on what you do best, running a thriving salon. Here at Salon Cadence, we recommend mysalonbooks.com. It is the only bookkeeping management that utilizes the profit first the right way. So go to mysalonbooks.com to learn more and get free evaluation of your own books.
But just so we know and understand, I mean, for us, when you're picturing an ER environment, we always go to the movies or to the TV shows, and the doctors are all over your patient, and everybody is amazing, of course. But how many hours are you required to work a week?
Yeah, I mean, I went to a really what's referred to as a malignant program. In retrospect, it was great. I got the best training that I could hope for, but it was a lot of work. So easily 100 hours, 120 hours a week was kind of the norm. In fact, when I, sort of immigrated over to Denver and with Colleen, I met her, when I was a resident, when we moved over. I was talking to some of my colleagues and they were working maybe 14 shifts, and that was a lot for them. But I came from a program where hard work was really kind of expected. And so, I would work 18, 20 shifts a month. And I thought that was great. That was sort of easy for me because I was working even more when I was a resident. So part of it was perhaps that I was working too much. I really like being a doctor. That is what I wanted to do. I think the key realization is that there's different ways of practicing medicine. And if you follow this rubric that 99% of doctors follow, undergrad, med school, residency, plus or minus a fellowship, then you become an attending. If you follow that formula, then you're going to get burned out. I mean, if you look at the burnout rates for doctors, it's really, really high. And it's this mismatch between what the doctor envisioned their career being once they were in attending and the reality of things on the ground. And the fact is, you don't have to follow that formula. You can break the mold and go in a different direction.
It's amazing. Colleen, how many hours did you used to put in too? Because you're in the same field.
Yeah. So when I started out as an ER nurse and working 12-hour shifts, 3 days a week. But when I was in my 20s and early 30s, I was picking up as many extra shifts as I could because making that money was great at the time. So it was a lot of hours, but I mean, probably even more than the doctors. The nurses spend on your feet pretty much the whole 12 hours, right? So if you work 3 shifts in a row, you are exhausted. Like you lose a whole 2 or 3 days. So it can be really taxing on your body for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think that's typically is a problem also of any kind of entrepreneur that whether they start off and before you know it, they do the 100 hours. I mean, I don't know, Nicole, we got it pretty good, but we were very disciplined and worked really, really hard not to get to the burnout phase, which we do every once in a while. But I think we're pretty good in systematic and balancing it. But I do put 60 hours a week. I feel like many times, but I have to admit, I just love working. I do, and I love what I do. So Rocky Mountain Regenerative Medicine was born. And so when did you actually have the epiphany to do something like that? And what brought the concept? And was it something the two of you decided you wanted to do, or how did that all come up?
So not exactly. So Khoshal at some point, probably a decade ago, said to me, if I keep working in the ER, working these shifts, having to work these overnights, kind of just putting Band-Aids on people all the time, not really fixing anything. He's like, I'm going to get burnout. I'm going to get overweight. I'm going to get sick. I'm going to get miserable. And he came to me and said, I want to do something different. I want to look into, learning about functional medicine and stem cell therapy and how to really get people healthy and really consider opening my own practice. And so I was like, okay, well, that sounds a lot better than the alternative, right? Of, being pretty miserable. So Khoshal started to pursue, all the education pieces that he needed to do that. And then I was actually in nurse practitioner school at about the same time. So I was still working in the ER and going to grad school, and Khoshal was now pursuing some education to open up this practice, open the practice. And I think you were doing it for a little bit over a year. And during that time, I was working in family practice, seeing like 20 patients a day, and started to just kind of get the itch of like, I feel like I'm putting Band-Aids on stuff. I'm seeing people for the same things over and over. They're not making lifestyle changes. They're not kind of doing the things that will really make the biggest difference. And so we started to see an opportunity over probably the first couple of years that RMRM was open, that we could do sort of more like this health optimization piece. So I kind of slowly came over. I think I was pregnant with our third kid, Jackson, at the time when I started here, started kind of seeing patients. And so so Khoshal was doing stem cell therapy and some labs and things like that on patients. And then when I came in, we started to build out the membership health optimization part of our business quite a bit more.
Which I think it's genius. So let's talk a little bit about the services and that the health optimization, because I know, Colleen, you specializing in women health and wellness.
I do, yeah. And actually, just kind of a little plug, Ronit, too, is that we have recently just soft launched, and it's really hard launching in October, a women's program. It's called Thrive. And it's a little bit different from our membership, and it only focuses on women going through perimenopause and menopause. So yeah, women's health has definitely been a passion of mine.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Nicole and I, we just talked about, I mean, seriously, we've been talking about women health for the past 2 weeks, like nonstop. Yeah, especially now, Nicole is in her, she's only a couple of years younger than me. And so I have my 50s challenges, but I pretty much got into my premenopause at the age of 40. For sure, because genetically my mom got there earlier. The problem is that and I can't wait to talk about that, but the problem is that even when I went to see specialist, the number one specialist in Boston, which I loved, she was great. It took me about 5 doctors just to even think about doing that. And then once I went to see her, she really told me, Ronit, you're not there yet, but we could start a little bit with some hormone therapy. And so a lot of people are really scared from that. And a lot of people don't really put so much value on if they're exhausted, if they're tired, if they're pissed off. Every 5 minutes, something pissed them off, or they're not relaxed. They're not relaxed at home. They're not relaxed at work. And being an entrepreneurial business owner, it is hard to do that. And I can only imagine, Nicole, how is it on your end since you're only 2 years younger?
Yeah, just a couple years younger, but it can make all the difference, right? No, I mean, listen, I got my period when I was 13, and it was immediately nothing like what my friends described it would be. It was immediately nothing like it. I'd be like, yours hurts? They're like, oh yeah, it hurts, but everyone hurts. I mean, it's just super normal. I'm like it hurts so bad that you have to lay on the ground and like you're throwing up, and it's hard to move, and you feel it in your legs and you feel it in your back. I'm like, well, sometimes you feel it in your legs and sometimes you feel it in your back. But how women were just when I grew up just told, oh well, the pain's normal, like your pain is normal. And then for us to just be given birth control at such a young age just to help combat it, it was wild. So yeah, I mean, I've been on an interesting journey trying to figure out my body and what works and what doesn't work for me. And there are some recent studies and things done for endometriosis that's not just going in and having that surgery, or having birth control, which is promising. But yeah, there's so much to being a woman that we just don't know because it's not been prioritized.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're just starting to scratch the surface, but there are a lot of resources out there, and there, are definitely people willing to listen and try to work with people individually, I think is really the most important part. We can't just kind of like chalk everything up to being busy and being a mom and being tired and being, just stressed. There can be really physiological things happening.
Oh, absolutely. For sure. So before we dive into your success of running a practice, your private practice for 8 years, I would love to know what was the one point that in your journey that you almost gave it up. You almost decided to quit. This is not working for you. You were burned out. This is not good. Nothing is working. I'm trying everything. It's not doing this. At what point, in that point, you had a pivot moment and you got through it? And what did you do in order to get through it and keep going?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to highlight that I really like what I do and the stuff. And I think the same can be said about Colleen. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but we really like the things that we do here at the clinic. And I'm really engaged. I'm really purpose driven as far as the practice is concerned, because these are all things that I would do for myself, whether it's lab tests, other diagnostics, imaging, whether it's therapies when it comes to hormones, peptides, stem cells. The reason we do it is because it works. I've done it for myself. And I do really deep dives when it comes to novel research in these areas. And so that's why I love what I do. But when we first started out, like, I can't highlight to you enough, and your audience is probably going to cringe, but like, I had zero experience. Like, I remember seeing patients, and again, this makes me cringe. So Natalie is going to make you cringe. Like, I didn't know even how to ask for money, right? If you go to a hospital, the doctor doesn't ask you for your credit card, right? And so
we were totally unprepared to like like a pay for service business.
A pay for service. Like, I didn't even know how to ask for that. So patients would just literally walk out. This happened. Like, this happened.
We're like, should we call them?
Like, should we
call
send
them?
How do I ask for money? I mean, it certainly didn't raise to the point of causing us to want to quit. But like any successful, business, and this is probably something that your audience can relate to. You're constantly going to have individuals reaching out to you, wanting to invest, wanting a piece of what you have. And they come in with certain services or certain knowledge that they have to offer that you might feel like you need. So, for instance, people would come in and say, hey, you're doing marketing all wrong. If you can hire me to do XYZ for you, then I can take this off the table for you. And we didn't know how to be good bosses. Good boss doesn't mean you do everything that your employee is asking, but it's giving clear directives, clear objectives for them to hit. And so we would hire somebody, we would, pay them a bunch of money and let them drive and let them define what their goals, objectives are. And it didn't help them. And it certainly didn't help the practice. It didn't help us. It just led to a lot of frustration. And so it really goes to the heart of like, look, the medicine side, we have down. The business side of it, we really need help with, whether that's operations, whether that's knowing who to hire for marketing. And so we were not very good at that. And what really held us back was that side of it, the administrative side of it. And, thank God for Colleen kind of coming over and saying, hey, it doesn't sound right that you're letting people walk out the door without paying. Let me handle the administrative side. And she had a certain way of communicating that I certainly lack. But this is why you need to surround yourself. You need to know yourself, right? Know your strengths, know your weaknesses. Whatever you're strong in, gravitate towards those, but have the humility to bring on individuals that are better than you and surround yourself with individuals who are better than you. And I think that's the tack that we've taken when it comes to all of our employees, our nurses, our front desk person, our administrator, our marketer, our VA. Know what you're good at and know how to delegate to other individuals who are much better than you are. And the employees that we've had for years. They don't leave because they're happy. They're content with what they do. They, have their objectives. I kind of give them goals and objectives that I want to achieve. And then I let them come up with how to achieve it. And we decide collectively on certain benchmarks to be hitting to know that that they're on track, that the business is on track. And Colleen has really sort of taken on a lot of the administrative responsibilities and oversight of those individuals. And it's done really, really well. And so there was certainly a time when, we didn't know what we were doing and we were on the verge of collapse because of that. I didn't want to get out of it. It was, I wanted to stick with it because this is what I wanted to do. This is where I saw my future. We were really lacking in business acumen.
Yeah.
With this podcast or our show, it's Living a Profitable Life show, we're going to bring you so many great guests and lessons and teaching. So it's really is wonderful to have our partners, sponsors that helping us make this possible for everyone. But it is you who are going to make us better. So I'm asking you to always comment and let me know, how was this episode? Was it helpful? What else would you like to learn? What else would you like to see? It's predicted within the next few years, this industry, this beautiful beauty industry around the world is going to be growing by 8 to 10% incremental. That means opportunities to grow, to develop, to anything you want to be in this world. The thing is, the more you subscribe and share it with your friend, the more I can make this podcast be the best place for you. Any subject that you find is necessary, let us know. So please subscribe and help us get to at least 1,000 downloads. Once we get there, we'll celebrate.
So you actually you've learned from other people how to run the business side of it because you were in the practice of it. And it's funny how there's some things that you take for granted. You're just like, oh, wait a second, how does that happen? So, typically behind every thriving empire, there's often a story, right? A personal transformation. How is the building a business that helps other people, reshape who you are as a human individually or as a family or as a couple, from daily habits to relationships finding meaning and purpose? How does that, because at the end of the day, when I look at this, at one point you're going to leverage on income. You're going to come to the point where you maximize, maybe, not maximize, but you got to the point where you says, okay, I replace my doctor income, working 100 hours. Not only that I replace my income, then I'm also working a lot less hours. I'm happy there, but there's more to it, right? Mm-hmm. So especially when you're in a business that you give meaning to life. So both of you, how has that affected you?
I think Khoshal and I are both just people that really push hard to get to accomplish things. And then it seems like, you accomplish one feat and then there's 10 more in front of you. And so we kind of never slow down. And I mean, first I would say it's been fun and has had lots of challenges to be doing it together.
I know how that goes.
We get to spend a lot of time together. I mean, we're together all day in the office, and then, we're calling and texting who's taking which kid where, and then we're back together for dinner. And then, our weekends are stuff at home, working on the house and things. And so it's definitely been, it's more than just like a marriage, or a partnership. Having both of these pieces together, to be working together, to be building our life and our family and our business together. I feel like we have seen so many challenges on both sides of it that we've come to a place where like we just know that we're going to be able to overcome kind of any other challenges that'll come in the way. And working on this together, it really has brought together like what our view for the future is and what we want for our family and for our kids as we kind of move through the goals of our business and our financial goals and our family goals, right? To kind of make that all one, instead of sort of like my career is over here and my family life is on the other side. So really working together for how we want to see our time, our space, our family grow, our business grow, has been, it's something that I never would have really envisioned coming together in the way that it has. But each step, so for example, right, like each time our business grows and maybe we need to hire somebody or we need to take on a more leader, for me, especially that I've needed to take on more leadership roles in the business, and being really thoughtful about how that affects my family and, my time with my kids and my time with Khoshal has been really eye-opening in the different types of relationships that you have to build and the types of roles that you have to play as you build the business.
Yeah. Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it.
Yeah, that's 100% right. Because I think, like Colleen said, we're both really driven people. I think a lot of people in medicine are just kind of programmed that way. Otherwise, you're probably not going to last through like the rigors of med school and residency. So that's kind of the pedigree that we have. And that can lead to problems, because if you are in any competition, your kind of default setting is to be at the top of the list, to be number one. And that can certainly apply to business, right? You want to make more and more and more money. And there's a problem with that because there's an endless supply of money. So when do you stop? When do you say enough is enough? And I think, that goes to the heart of really pinning down what is important to you. And what's important for me, what's important for Colleen is our family, spending as much time with our kids as possible. And, really being an integral part of their childhood. So that way, when they're older, they have no reason to say my dad wasn't around or my mom wasn't around. And look, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying there's different ways to measure wealth. And one is financially and another is legacy, for your family. And it's really important to measure wealth in a way that aligns with your values. And those are my values. spending time with family. Could I be making more money? Absolutely. But is that going to be healthy for the welfare of my family? I just got done telling you that I was working well over 100 hours a week. Is that what I want to continue to be doing? That's the life I left, in quote unquote conventional medicine.
Well, and there was a time when we, early on in the business when the kids were babies and Khoshal was still working in the ER and building this business. And I was a new grad nurse practitioner and having these and it was not where we wanted to be. Yeah. And we knew that was not sustainable for our lives.
Yeah. It's amazing. What are you willing to do in order to get to a point when you're actually in the place that you want to be? And I'm not saying, and quite frankly, in order to have a certain income, in order to have a certain freedom, in order to have do something that you actually love, you do have to grind. I mean, I don't care what people say. There is no such a thing as balance. I don't know where that word even comes from. Seriously, there is living harmonically, and most of the time you can. Sometimes you cannot. Shit can happen every time.
Yeah.
But when you actually practice what you love, and you find the time that you can disengage, and you know that the time that you're going to have to grind. I think that's something that you cannot control when you're working for corporate or when you're working for a thing that comes with small entrepreneurial mindset.
Yeah.
But I think when you are determining it yourself, you can build in the time to create that resilience within yourself, that it's not going to burn you out because you know what the goal is. You're working towards it. You can achieve it, and then you can enjoy it.
I agree.
This is good. I'm actually curious. So I'm imagining a life where you guys are raising kids, where you're working all of these hours. Where did you find the bandwidth to be like, okay, I'm actually, you're starting this new business, forgot to mention that crazy amount of things that you guys have on your plate, to actually take a step back and say, oh, this isn't working, and this is the execution plan? Because I feel like that area is so messy, and I feel like people don't really know where to start with that. They're afraid to start. They're afraid to pause because they're in the grind. So what would you recommend? How did you guys get through that period?
Yeah, and I wish I could say we had this idea right from the inception of this idea of how to split time between family and dedicate to the business. But it's a realization that occurs with time. To Ronit's point, there's definitely things that are going to happen to the business that are out of your control, and absolutely you need to be resilient in the face of that. But all of that, I think, comes from just really pinning down what your purpose is. Because if the business is under attack, financially, for instance, then you're not going to be able to lead the life that you envision for your family. And that threatens the welfare, the future of your kids. Well, if that's what's important, then you gotta grind, and there's certainly value in your kids seeing you grind, because it's going to rub off on them. You can tell them work hard, but it's another thing to see you lead by example and put forth that effort. So when you're starting a business, 100%, there's so many stressors that are on you, and you need to have that resilience in reserve. And I think the way that I grew up, the way that Colleen grew up, we really sort of supported each other we continue to support each other because we've been through tons of ups and downs, and it was really encouraging for me to have somebody who's, in your corner, kind of coaching you through it and cheering you on. And at the end of the day, if what you value is family, there's certainly certain things that you need to do as the leader of that family, right? As the mom and dad, to put forth effort to secure their future. And 100%, that motivated me to work hard and continues to motivate me to this day. I think it takes a little bit of mindfulness to then step back and say, hey, this is what I'm doing in the immediate sense, but where do I see the trajectory of my life and my family's life? And is that on course with what I had envisioned previously? And if it's not on course, because you're always, you're in this on the hamster wheel again, and you're seeing as many patients as possible in order to make more money, then that is something that's not for me. Maybe it's for some people where, they want to, but like, there's no it's an endless supply of money. Like, when are you going to say enough is enough? Because if you continually feel unfulfilled because somebody else is driving a better car or somebody else is living in a better house, and you're constantly competing with the Joneses, it's going to be an unfulfilled life, because you're always going to have somebody who's doing a little bit better. And so it does take a little bit of mindfulness and really pinning down what your purpose is and when enough is enough. So.
Well, 100%. I agree with that, Nicole. Even for us, one of our values is being profitable. And that's why we call this podcast, it's a profitable life. Because it for me, no matter what, and I'm sure that's you're in it in the same way. We love money, for sure. Money brings you a lot of things. It helps you do a lot of things. But at the end of the day, when I get a text message, which I did this morning, I don't know if I shared that with you, Nicole, I got a text message from Andy saying, "This is why I am in your rooms. I got so inspired today. That's all I want to do." To me, that's just bigger than life. When somebody, you make a difference and they're happy, it just keeps me going for another 10 years.
Yeah.
Or 10 days.
Well, to live a profitable life doesn't necessarily only mean money. I think that's the point that everybody is trying to make. You can have an endless supply of money, and there's an endless supply of money to be made, but you can't buy back time.
This episode is sponsored by Vish, the smartest color management system for profitable salons. Vish tracks your color usage, reduces waste, and helps you charge accurately for all color services, so you can protect your profit and grow with confidence. You know that we are all about profit and how we live a profitable life by design. You can definitely make it so easily, and I've seen it, the actual results on the P&L. Vish makes it happen. Now join thousands of salons using Vish to scale smarter. Head to getvish.com and see the difference for yourself. This episode is sponsored by Forest Salon Software, the all-in-one solution designed to help salon, spa, med spa owners really deliver with confidence and really design and drive their company to success. Forest isn't just a booking system. It is your machine that will help you grow your company with smart marketing and real-time reporting, staff performance tracking, and world-class support. And I mean world-class support, because I wouldn't even recommend Forest if they didn't have a world-class support. Now, so whether you're scaling to 7 figures or streamline your operation or need to fix things and tighten things up, Forest can help you make smarter decisions and deliver the luxury experience that your clients and your members really need. If you're ready for software that is all in and grows with you and support you for a truly team-run company, just visit forest.com and discover why thousands of salons trust Forest. And mention Salon Cadence and you'll get a perk.
I just wanted to add to Nicole, to your question about like when we stepped back and, tried to make changes to kind of where things were to get to where we wanted to be. And I think what I would say to that is that along the way, you come to crossroads all the time, and you have to make a decision towards one direction or another to get to a particular goal. And they're like a lot of those little decisions, they lead to the bigger goal. So like, for example, right, I was working as an NP, I was pregnant and trying to see 20 patients a day.
Yeah.
Or Khoshal was like, come just like see the patients here at RMRM. You can make your own schedule. You can, learn medicine a little bit of a different way. You can like think about making people healthier and not just prescribing medications all day. okay, I'll try that. Right. So come here. Then when I came here to RMRM, you start to notice things. And I said, well, why don't we draw our own labs here? And I started putting things in place. And I was like, wow, I'm really good at logistics. I'm good at because I know medicine enough that I can, I know the things that we need to bring in to make things run easier and smoother for both the doctors and for the patients. And so I started putting some things into place. And for a while, I was doing both logistics and seeing patients. And then at some point, I mean, I was up late at night. I was researching, getting, prepared to see patients the next day, while trying to, after my kids would go to bed. And that wasn't working for me. So then as we were getting busier, I said, let's hire more nurses. We hired more nurses. More logistical things needed to be done. So I stopped seeing patients. I made another choice, right? I came to a crossroads, made another choice to work on the administrative, logistical operations part of the business, to grow that so that we could see more patients. So like all these little things happen along the way.
That's huge, Colleen, because that's not easy to do.
No, but now we've put people in place. We have a great staff that we trust, that are, that I've been able to hand off a lot of the administrative tasks to. And I've been able to take more time to study more about menopause and perimenopause, which is, again, I have been very passionate about since I started as a nurse practitioner. And a lot of my peers, my kids' friends, are starting to be in this boat and talk about all this stuff. And so I start talking about it with them, and they're like, oh my God, you're so knowledgeable about the medications that are available, and about, who should take hormone therapy and who shouldn't, and, sort of what the risks are, and just all of these things that happen to women in midlife. And they're like, can I come see you? And, so then I had to make another choice. Should we do this program or should we not? And we got ourselves to a point in the business where I was able to hand off a lot of the administrative tasks. I'm now able to start seeing patients again. But not only that, but now we've hired a PA who we're training to do the same stuff. So we're going to
layer it up. You layer it up and you grow it.
You just keep adding these layers, because so then in my mind, how we run this business is we get really busy and we work really hard. We get these things in place, create these programs, and then we teach people how to do it. And then we can move on to the next thing. And during that time, we can take the time for ourselves and for our family.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. So talking about the medicine itself, and thanks for sharing that, Colleen, because I know that even though it sounds like, oh, you guys got to do this and you layer that, and that's what happened. It doesn't really happen that way. That's a big decision. It's a load of decision, and it's so scary.
Yeah,
and we do have
it is so scary.
It is, because we go through this with our own members, and that's the number one thing.
It's like easier to choose what you know.
Right.
Even if the thing that you don't know is going to make your life so much better and so much easier.
Right.
So many people don't make the decisions that you guys made. They just keep living in this vicious cycle, and they're exhausted. But it's the thing that they know in their comfort zone. And there's freedom on the other side of making tough choices, but ultimately you're choosing your values, you're choosing yourself. And why do we make it so hard? Why do we do that?
Well, Nicole, I want to pick it back to it. Something very important that we're not bringing up yet. Okay. Because I am sure, just because I have been with your clinic now for over 2 years, maybe 3 years, my family is with you, and I'm trying to get all my team over. But what I'm trying to say is we make better decision where we hormonalize balanced, where there's the things are right. So for all of you who are listening, I just want you to know that when you have a tough time to make a decision, there might be a very good clinical reason for it, because you're not in the state of mind to make a decision. Right. You might be exhausted. You might be fuzzy. I mean, the fuzz, you don't even realize, people don't even realize that they operate in a fuzz.
Yeah.
So I'd love to go into this. Okay. Khoshal,
Yeah.
tell us how you keep youth.
Yeah.
And Colleen, tell us how we can get rid of the fuzz.
Well, I mean, one thing I would say is that decision making is a very personal process, right? Khoshal and I kind of argue about this a little bit. Like, he likes to make decisions quickly. I like to take a lot of time, talk to a lot of people, think about things kind of very detailed, like plan way far out. So I think number one, you have to kind of know yourself and how you like to make decisions before you can kind of really help yourself to know how you make the best decisions. I don't know. What else do you think?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that conventional medicine is guilty of, and it's kind of embarrassing to admit this, but it's a science that's really focused on men first and foremost. If you look at studies, a lot of them are sort of concentrated. It's a male dominant sort of field. A lot of the researchers are male. And then even if there are female researchers studying a subject, it's usually involving a lot of male patients. And so the conclusions that they reach are really male centric. Why is that important? Well, one of the largest studies out there that looked at women reached a false conclusion with respect to hormone replacement therapy. And that was a couple of decades ago. And those conclusions still paint the opinions of a lot of providers out there. So when women reach this critical juncture in their lives, when they turn 40, 45, 50 years old, and they're undergoing perimenopause or menopause, some are going out of their minds because they're experiencing the mental fogginess that you alluded to, Ronit. They're experiencing the hot flashes, the insomnia. And if you can't sleep, you can't operate the next day. You can't be a mom. You can't be an employee. It's really, really difficult. And they go to their OBGYNs, or maybe they get referred to an endocrinologist. Primary doctors, OBGYNs, endocrinologists really feel poorly equipped about how to direct them as far as hormone replacement therapy. So here's 50% of the population undergoing what you underwent as a teenager, but on the other side now in their 40s and 50s. And like, it's a surprise to everybody. It's a surprise to the doctors. It's a surprise to the patient. I get this from a lot of my patients. Am I the only one going through this? It's crazy that they think they're the only ones going through. They haven't even discussed it with their mothers, who probably underwent similar symptoms at a similar point in their lives. And so, they really think, and then they watch TV, they're looking at these influencers, and it's a bunch of crystal waving as far as like how to get your hormones back, when the easy answer is just take hormones. And a doctor should feel really well equipped to be able to do that. I mean, this is what's leading to this migration of doctors, OBGYNs, endocrinologists, primary doctors, in my case, an emergency physician, transitioning to this other field of medicine, saying, look, the way that we're practicing medicine is really reactionary. Unless it's broke, you don't fix it. That's a problem, because when women come to you and say, hey, I'm not quite at menopause, but here's all the symptoms that I'm experiencing, you make sense of it. A doctor should be well equipped to be able to field that question and say, let's check your hormones. And sure, you don't meet the threshold for menopause quite yet, but here's how I explain your symptoms based on these hormonal disruptions. And more importantly, this is what we're going to do about it. And if that takes a little bit of trial and error, it's having the patience to kind of work through that and restore, mental sharpness, getting rid of the hot flashes, allowing them to sleep at night, not having these wild mood swings that is really disruptive for the spouse, for the kids, for their coworkers. It's really kind of fostering health in a really proactive manner before it's broken. And I'll tell you, like, a lot of the dissatisfaction, the same dissatisfaction that I experienced, other doctors are experiencing, and they're going to want to get into this field of medicine. And the problem they're going to run into is, oh my God, similar to me, how do I run somebody's credit card? How do I have standard operating procedures? And I didn't have anybody coaching me through it. I wish I would have read your book, Ronit, at that time, because at the very least, it would have taught me how to.
We had a couple of good lunches.
We did. But like when we were first starting out, it was rough going, and it's going to be rough going for a lot of these doctors. And you're right. Like
it was hard to keep going when you kept getting like hit in the face with like another challenge.
Yeah. Right. But and I'm glad that you're bringing it up. This is very important. There's a lot of people who want to help, doctors who want to help everyone out there. And of course, if anybody is interested to know exactly how to not suffer about running a business, you don't have to worry about. They can reach out to you guys, and I'm sure you're going to help them.
Yeah.
But we'll talk a little bit about that later because I think it's very important information. But for anybody who's out there who's listening to this and is worried about going out and open their own practice so they can help, so they can give good service, so they can listen, you don't have to worry about it. You just have to do it. And so now going into what you explained, Khoshal, I think that for us women who we have the children, we got a lot of weight on our shoulders. We are still minority. We're still, we want to be successful. We have a hard time sleeping at night to begin with because we've got so much on it. How does the regenerative or the new medicine can help us? What do you guys practice that you can tell us a little bit about what we should consider to prevent and be proactive? And before you even go there, the one thing that stands out to me is the labs. I mean, there's so much people who will always say, "Oh, I went to the doctors and I just had a great lab and everything is great. Everything is checking out great." And it's bullshit.
Yeah. So that's really, really good point because, a lot of labs are done. You meet with your doctor and the doctor sort of gives you this really qualitative thumbs up, thumbs down kind of answer or interpretation. Everything is good or everything is bad. But what does that mean? Just step back a little bit. When you get your labs done at your doctor, chances are these are not the best labs that could be done to really figure out your risk of cardiovascular disease or cancer or metabolic disease. A lot of the decisions that your doctor makes as far as what labs to order are dictated by insurance companies. And insurance companies are trying to minimize payouts. How do they do that? Well, they use antiquated labs. There's constantly new science being done, coming up with the latest, greatest, most representative labs to really create a risk profile for what things look like in terms of cardiovascular disease or metabolic disease, et cetera, et cetera. But those labs are not being done because insurance companies are kind of slowing everything down. So there's this disconnect between science and where medicine is practiced. And in order to kind of bring them on the level playing field and kind of get the two to meet, we've taken insurance companies out of the equation. Don't get rid of your insurance. Have it there for emergencies if you need an appendectomy or you have some other health catastrophe. In order to keep from going bankrupt, you need insurance there to cushion the blow. But when it comes to proactive health, before something is broken, that really falls to you. That's the way the system is designed. So we've removed insurance. We don't take insurance, at our practice. And then when we do these labs, and this is really important to understand, we're not looking for what's broken. We're looking for what will be broken in a decade if you do nothing about it now. Why is that important? Well, it changes things from just comparing your numbers to the reference range, and it changes it to comparing your numbers to the ideal, to the optimum range. And so you can pick up on things like menopause. We know that the age of menopause hasn't changed over decades. For women, it's around age 50 and for women. And so,
but the physiological changes can start a decade.
Much before. Absolutely.
Exactly. So it's just like sitting down with patients, asking them what kind of symptoms they're experiencing, because sometimes they can predate any lab abnormalities. We certainly use labs, but we also take the symptoms into account. In most doctors' offices, if you report your symptoms, they'll say, hey, I checked your labs, they're all quote unquote normal, so nothing to do right now. Well, you didn't make up those symptoms. You're experiencing those symptoms. And how do you address that? Well, in conventional medicine, that's not addressed because maybe the doctor is afraid that it might cause breast cancer, putting you on hormone replacement therapy, which is what one of these flawed studies that I referenced earlier seem to suggest. But that sort of conclusion has been debunked, pretty well, for decades. And so, because of this, this fear, this unrealistic fear of breast cancer, we're holding back therapy, from patients that could really be benefiting them. So our approach is much more proactive. It's geared towards optimum lab values, not just reference ranges. And by not involving insurance, we're able to practice medicine on par with where science is today.
Amazing. I think right there, anybody who's listening, it's something to think about, because you cannot fight the insurance company. You cannot, even the doctors, they're just ignorant to it now.
Yeah.
They don't care. I mean, the other day I went to get my skin check because I'm prone to breast cancer from having the BRCA gene. I have to do it more often. So I went to check it out, and I think I've been dancing from dermatologist to dermatologist, and I'm sitting down and I just feel, I'm trying to make conversation, and you know how friendly I am, and I try to make conversation, and just, it's like a 10 minutes, like, let's stand up, your legs are up, your legs are down, and it's like, okay, there's another number here. And
there's no personal relationship.
Nothing. And even if it's like you're just trying to crack a joke, I'm serious. It's like every doctor I go to, it's like, what do I need to do in order to just get a smile, right?
Well, I mean, it's true. Like in the emergency room, we used to be like the belly pain in room 4 or the lack in room 12 or whatever. Like, you'd refer to people by their problem and not as the people that they are.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, what my grandmother always used to say, I love what she used to say. She used to say, I rather eat pasta than cleaning the house. I rather pay for a cleaning lady to come and organize my house. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to spend the time. I've got way more important things to do. Same thing goes to that. I'd rather eat more pasta, although I know you would not approve that. And
you're getting your grams of protein.
Yeah.
And be proactive, right? So okay, so let's kind of like come down into those 5 rapid questions. But going back to regenerative medicine and anti-aging, it is a proactive. What is the number one thing that we should all know?
I think the number one thing is something that's free, which is exercise. A lot of people underappreciate the importance of exercise. As we're getting older, we find the motivation to be really lacking to exercise. And that might tie into some hormonal deficiencies that also take place as a person is getting older, men and women. But exercise is really, really important. And I regard exercise in 2 separate buckets, which is strength training and then cardiovascular fitness, cardiorespiratory fitness. And they're really 2 different animals entirely. So I think they're both important, whether you choose to bike, hike, row, whatever you do, whatever you like, whatever you gravitate towards, do that, but really maintain your cardiorespiratory fitness that way. And then, weight training strength training is really important for maintaining the health of your muscles, of your bones. One of the top causes of death as a person's getting older is low-level trauma, not getting hit by a car, but picking something off the ground, losing your balance, and breaking a hip. And that happens because your bones are really frail, And the time to fix that is not after you break your bones. The time
Yeah.
to have addressed it was decades earlier. If you're deficient in hormones, make sure that you're kind of quote unquote topped off as far as your testosterone or estradiol level is concerned, both of which are really important for optimum bone and muscle health. But exercise during those decades would have really contributed positively. So exercise is really underappreciated, and that's what most people lack.
Even if they just go for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, because I know I do it, 20, 30 minutes to the gym. It doesn't have to be an hour.
Right.
Yeah.
And, strength training, go nice and slow. You don't need to be, throwing weights around and grunting and making it uncomfortable. But you need to be doing something, and if you're there for 20 minutes, if that's your jam, great. Like, make that work.
Yeah, it's important. For anyone out there who is listening and would love to get some more information about women health, or stem cell or any kind of anti-aging treatment, can they work with you remotely, or is it only allowed to me?
No, we do see patients remotely. There are certainly some restrictions around prescription of controlled substances. And believe it or not, testosterone is regarded as a controlled substance. So it really can't be prescribed across state lines unless a physician is licensed in that state. I know that a lot of people kind of, find workarounds there, but really they shouldn't. To do it right, you need to be seen by the doctor in the state where the practitioner is licensed. And so we do work with patients, but when it comes to prescription of controlled substances, I usually coach patients on how to talk to their primary doctor regarding some of those deficiencies, because that way they're speaking the same language that most doctors are speaking. And if you're clearly deficient, something that's hardly checked by primary doctors, it's still, believe it or not, OBGYNs or primary doctors or endocrinologists won't check a woman's testosterone. Why? Because it's regarded as a male hormone. I have tons of women who are taking testosterone and they feel great on it. It's not the only hormone that they're taking, but if their levels are really, really deficient, why not do that?
Yeah. Well, just in regards to testosterone, what I would just say is the medical guidelines say that you don't actually need to check a testosterone level, but you should treat a woman with testosterone if they have a low libido. And I think a lot of clinicians don't even know what the medical guidelines say for women. In our practice, we check all the labs and we like to see what we're doing, because if I'm going to treat somebody with testosterone, I want to know where I'm starting. But just so people out, your listeners understand that there is a symptom and a treatment, and any clinician that follows medical guidelines should be prescribing that.
Mm-hmm.
100%.
And then when it comes to just your other question about stem cells, there's different ways of practicing stem cell therapy. The way that we do it is we perform a liposuction procedure on the patient. We take out some fat, we isolate the stem cells within that fat, and then we replicate those cells over the course of about 6 weeks in a lab under sterile conditions to hundreds, if not thousands of times the number of similar cells naturally occurring in the body. And then we freeze those cells for reintroduction back into the body at a future date. And every time that we do that, we're reintroducing a small aliquot of what's frozen, but it's still translating into several multiples of the number of similar cells in the body. And the reason we're doing that is because as a person is getting older, the quantity of stem cells in the body, the quality of those cells are declining.
Yeah.
In everybody. And these are the cornerstone of healing and regeneration at a cellular level. And we do think that we're all sort of different mosaics of how to measure aging. But one of the things we know that happens is that decline in the quantity and the quality of those stem cells. And we do think it's responsible for aging, whether it's your immune system, whether it's your musculoskeletal system, et cetera, you need stem cells. And so we reintroduce it back into joints, we reintroduce it intravenously. As long as they're your own cells, they're not foreign to your body, they're not foreign to your immune system.
So how does it work? So you take stem cells, and how long do you need to freeze them before you can actually use them?
Yeah, it's not so much the
Can you use it? Can you use it right away?
we can. So in other words, I can take your stem cells and reintroduce them back the same day.
Okay.
Or the other alternative is to take those cells and replicate them, in a petri dish, if you will. If your audience has ever worked in a biology lab or something like that, you can't speed up how fast cells replicate. They're going to replicate at the pace that they're going to replicate. The best that you can do as a lab tech is furnish it with the raw ingredients that those cells need to be able to do that. So you can provide the ideal environment, in other words, for those cells to do what they do, but you can't push fast forward. And so it usually takes about 6 weeks for those cells to replicate to really high numbers.
Okay.
And then those cells are collected and frozen. So as you're getting older, right,
Yeah.
your cells are frozen at their current age. And you could argue that those cells are probably the best version of the stem cells that you have. And the reason that I say that is because as the cells are replicating in that petri dish, they're having to compete with their peers for the limited resources and nutrients in that petri dish. And those peers that can't keep up, they're going to die. And those cells that are able to rise to the top, they're going to replicate over and over and over again. So this is truly survival of the fittest, natural selection at a cellular level.
So somebody who's got chronic pain in their back or chronic pain in their knees is always, I feel like, or the hips.
Yeah.
If they, in order to prevent it to deteriorate, is you take the stem cell, you freeze them, you duplicate them, and a year, 2 years from now, you can use them.
Yeah.
To regenerate, strength in your knees or somewhere else. Is that how?
Yeah, and you can keep drawing on the same, so you don't have to repeat the procedure to harvest the stem cells. So you can keep drawing on the frozen cells.
I got to talk to Bill about this. I mean, did you talk to Bill about this?
I really can't remember. but I probably did. But for something like that, to answer your earlier question, you would need to travel to Colorado to be able to do that. And the reason back pain is really common, weight bearing joints, hips, knees, those are common culprits when it comes to injury, is because they have a really poor blood supply. So your cells are declining, and then you need some sort of traffic, some sort of road to deliver these stem cells from where you have a lot of them to where you have very few of them, like joints, for instance. And the truth is, those highways, those roads are few and far between when it comes to joints. And I'm specifically referring to blood supply. The blood supply to joints, the blood supply to your lumbar discs are really, really poor. So these cells just can't be delivered unless you replicate them and then you deliver it using a needle, right? You inject it right into that joint and you bypass that traffic issue.
Wow. Okay. So if I took, there's a lot of great gems that were dropped here today. We got to do this as a series, okay? We got to do the Colleen and Khoshal Forever Leaving series. But what I'm thinking is what we must know is, of course, that we have to at least work out every other day or every day, if that's the case, even if it's 30 minutes, weight training and some cardiovascular, and get sweaty. And then the other thing is that we learned is, and Nicole, remind me, because maybe I just need a little bit more stem cell to remember. But what else was there? The gems where you must change your labs, because your labs are on the regular conventional medical work is not enough. It's not going to give you what you need to know in order to prevent in a decade what can go wrong or can go right.
Yeah.
So different labs. What else we've learned today?
Yeah,
Nicole?
and it really like get to know your provider. And most doctors are not comfortable about hormone replacement. And like, look, I don't want to come across as just a hormone replacement doctor. There's a lot of things that we do in our clinic, but I'm trying to relay some of the information from the medical side to the non-medical side that, establish a good relationship. Most healthy people, they hate going to their doctor. They think it's a little bit of a waste of time. You sit there in the waiting room and then they take you to the other room and there's some more waiting involved, and you're sitting on the parchment paper thing, and then the doctor comes in and it's like the labs are good, and they're like, man, I just like canceled 2 hours of work to come here and that's all I got. But you really want, especially the female patients, you want to be asking your doctor, like, look, if I need hormone replacement therapy, are you comfortable prescribing something like that? And ask them an honest question. If they say no, then are they really checking the labs that pertain to those things? Because they may not be. And these days with the book by Peter Attia, Outlive, there's a list of like really good labs that you should be inquiring about of your primary doctor.
From the doctors,
Yeah, those are the labs that we check all the time. We've been doing that for years. We do it several times annually. And, you want to just establish a really good relationship with your doctor and see what they're comfortable with, and sort of go from there. So that's another, gem.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's really great for everyone. It's like you don't have to fly to Colorado. You guys definitely find out exactly what labs you should see. And today you can even ask ChatGPT a little bit about that.
There you go. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Nicole, should we go to the 5 rapid questions?
Oh, I'm on mute. Oh, yeah. I'm ready. Are you guys ready?
I think so. I think we're ready.
Also, thank you for everything that you've shared today.
Yeah.
I mean, my greatest takeaway is that there's a difference. You can choose 2 different paths. You can, resolve what's happening in your body right now in the moment, and you can have that standard care, or you can be proactive and actually learn about your body. And that's something worth investing in. You're worth investing in that time for yourself to learning about where your body's going, what you can do to feel healthier and have that less fatigue and be more intentional with your health in the now. So thank you for everything that you shared. And let me ask you a few questions.
We're going back to business. We're going back to the business of what you created.
Yeah.
And I think that it's important for everybody to know that if they have something they really want to pursue, they need to pursue it. Not be afraid. Just take a risk, and the layers. And when you open one door, you never know what's behind the door.
Yeah.
100%.
You just gotta go through the door.
Yeah.
Just gotta take that leap, even if it's scary. How would you guys define success? And these are rapid, so just like a quick.
Yeah.
How would you define the success?
I think I would define it as happiness, and that might include financial freedom. That might include, spending more time with your family or doing the things that you love with the people that you love, but being proud of life, and being happy. That's how I would define success.
Colleen?
I don't think I'd have too much else to add to that. I think that really covers it. Financial freedom, spending time with the people that you love, and doing something that you love, right? That your career is not just kind of separate from the rest of your life.
Look at that shared vision, Ronit. You clocked that. If you could have a billboard anywhere, what would it say?
Just jump in. Just jump in.
And I would say your health is your greatest asset. Invest in it every single day.
Love that. Love both of those. Those are good. What is your superpower?
You want to take that, or?
Sure. So I think my superpower is MacGyvering. I don't know if that's a real word, but basically problem solving, figuring out a way when there's some adversity in your path.
That's your ER background to cobble things together.
Yeah.
I think my superpower is resilience, and I really credit the people around me, especially Colleen, just kind of surrounding yourself with people who support you and through the hard times. And if you can do that, fantastic. So it's not so much my superpower. My superpower, I guess, is just surrounding myself with people who are encouraging. So yeah, resilience.
Love that. And could you share an obstacle that you overcame that shaped who you are today?
I think just kind of finding the right balance between work and family. And it's not one singular obstacle, but it's sort of ongoing, right? Because we're spouses working in the same business, when we're on vacation, guess what we're thinking about?
Work, yeah.
It's like work. And so finding the right balance, trying to separate the work world from the family world in a way that's healthy. So that's kind of this ongoing obstacle that I constantly have to contend with. To Ronit's point, it's sometimes in what we discussed earlier, we're really sort of competitive, we're driven, we have motors that are always sort of going, and that doesn't always lead to a good place. So separating family life from work life, that's sort of the obstacle we constantly have to contend with.
That is great. In updates, let's talk a little bit of what's coming up next. So I know you launched the wellness, female wellness program, which I think it's great. Can we read anything about it? Can we share it?
Yeah, there's a whole page on our website dedicated to it with a little video about what the program's about, what to expect, all the pricing and all of that. So yeah, that's a great resource. So we can get you that link.
And another thing, yeah, go ahead.
Are we coming into a new business add-ons? Something we should share with everyone?
Yeah, one of the add-ons, that's exactly what I was going to talk about. One of the add-ons that we sort of added on back in May was one of my patients who's a CEO of, he just got appointed a CEO of a company. He came to us and said, look, I've worked with you for a number of years. I really like the results and the way that you guys do things. I just assumed the leadership role in this other company. And one of the things that I really want to foster is wellness from top down. So we're holding a big event in Boulder. This was back in May. Can you guys be there, to give a talk regarding health and then draw blood work on our employees and then do a lab review with them, give them some specific instruction on, what you would recommend and why. And we did that with the entire RMRM team. The event was great. Everybody, our team really, really enjoyed it. And so they recently came back to us because they had been outsourcing this, to other companies. And they said, we got rid of these other companies because you guys did such a great job that we're going to bring you back on and do this again. And they were kind of inquiring if we could do this for one of their, locations in California. And at the end of the day, they still have to fly here. So there were some restrictions around that. But ultimately, we what came out of that is this education program where on a monthly basis, I'm giving a talk, pertaining to health, because they really want to ingrain this, in their rank and file. So that was a great success.
Yeah. Well, and so we've created this corporate program. So where we are recruiting businesses that we can be part of their wellness initiatives for their employees, whether it's holding a health fair and we kind of do one-offs during the health fair, excuse me, or for their executive team, essentially our membership for their executive team. So kind of bringing our culture into their culture.
I love it. As a matter of fact, I had a client back in Boston who, this is years ago, where she teamed up with Blue Cross Blue Shield, and by the company using your services, such as what you're doing right now, they lowered the amount of insurance,
I'm sure.
that the cost of insurance for their for the health insurance that they provide for their employees. So I think that's great. Good for you guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Good for the people. And anybody who wants to learn how to run a practice when they, decided to leave the corporate world, or they can come, and where can they find any information, or how they can speak to you when it comes to that? Where would that be?
So all of our information's on our website, rmrmco.com. Our phone number, and we get emails right to our front desk, admin@rmrmco.com. And it's all manned by real people, and so it's pretty easy to access us. We're also on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and LinkedIn and all the things. So yeah, we're all out there. So send the messages in. We'll be happy to chat with anybody.
Well, that's super great. Well, thank you guys. This has been so helpful.
Good.
Thanks
Thank you so
us.
much. Thanks for having us. This has been a really fun conversation.
Oh yeah, it's everything and everything, and everything that leads to a profitable life. So
Love it.
thank you so much. I'm super excited about today.
Thank
Great.
you both.
Thank you both so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll talk soon.